when somebody joins Auroville, signs that statement, and that is the only prescribed form in that gazetted policy. Before that, in 1997, when the rules of the Auroville Foundation came, at that time there was something called Form A and Form B, which was introduced, and most of us, when we joined Auroville, until today it continues that Form A and Form B is filled and then given to the office of the secretary. Now, in terms of the register, this register is not a static register. It is a perpetual register which gets updated as things move. The biggest movement in the updation of that register is when somebody new joins Auroville. And as soon as somebody joins Auroville, fills the Form B, and that Form B goes to the office of the foundation, secretary meets the newcomer turned into an Aurovillian, and once that process happens, the person gets into the register of residents. So this process continues. There is no batch or static register which gets updated once in a year or twice a year. What does happen is that there is a maintenance which happens of that register. Along with the newcomers joining, somebody who passes away also, then the working committee sends the information to the office of the secretary and the name is removed. What remains to be maintained in that is that when people leave Auroville, and particularly we keep the name of that person in the register for 5 years, that's something which is more of an internal thing. And if that name, the person remains out even after 5 years, that name remains in the master list or in the RoR, which needs to be maintained time to time. So this maintenance, the last maintenance happened in 2019-20. This was done in collaboration with the working committee that time, and 2 Aurovillians worked in maintenance of that register and even got their maintenance from the Auroville Foundation Office of the Secretary. So when the statement came that since 2005 the register is not maintained, from our perspective the register was updated and maintained in 2019-20. So that's one part of it. The second part, which is probably the worry for many of us, and it gets bigger with a certain FAQ which has been circulated, that the name of the person will be taken off the register of residents. Now, according to the policy which is there in gazetted in the government, admission termination, of how we call entry-exit policy, according to that, the entry and the exit, or admission and termination, both are to be decided by the resident assembly. So the office of the secretary or the governing board or the International Advisory Council do not have that under their duties as defined in the Act. It is there as the duties defined under the resident assembly. So technically, as per the Act and the policy, the right to admit and to remove a person stays with the resident assembly. So this is what I have. If I have missed something, so that's, yeah. Yeah. And on the aspect of, we thought of kind of what the working committee should stand. Should we fill the form? Should we not fill the form? Or should we do the Form I? Now that's something we came to that we do not want to decide for everybody that how they should be doing. We left it open to everyone to decide what is right for them. So from the perspective of filling this RoR form, wherever the mandatory fields are there, these mandatory fields all of us have filled before and they have been updated even in 2019-20. But if somebody wants to fill and repeat and send it back, might as well, that's additional bureaucracy somebody has to handle in the office of the secretary. So that's, if that makes somebody happy from our perspective, that's harmless. So from the point of view of, yeah, okay. That's all. I think there are two quick responses which want to come on this, so I don't have much more to say on this. I was not supposed to give a question, I was going to give the perspective of what the working committee thinks. Yeah, so this is where I put my last point, that the right of removal and admission is with the resident assembly. I think Allah has something pertinent to say.
So we invited you, as everyone knows, we have two working committees now, no? As everyone knows, there are two groups which name themselves. So okay, I was asking you, and of course I cannot impose myself, to be respectful. And if you don't allow me to finish what I'm saying, you are not respectful. Sorry. So what I wanted to say is that there is clearly two groups which name themselves Working Committee of the Resident Assembly. This is a fact. So now this FAQ comes from. Okay, but I'm still talking. Sorry. Okay, they don't hear you online, so it's really also confusing. So I just wanted to make clear to people that this FAQ comes from the other working committee, not the working committee where Herman is a member of. So we invited all of them, and I'm wondering if anyone of the other group is here, because officially they said they wouldn't come. Anyone is here? Okay. So they are not here. We will only hear from one side. It's fine. We are open as a platform, as RAS. We are open to all residents. This is our mandate, and this is what we are at service of. All residents. Okay. Who is next? But there is a list. No? Do we have a list? Is someone taking a list? Who is next?
Can I speak?
No. There is a list. Who is next? If you are next, it's you. If someone else is next. I'm sorry, yeah, but there is a next. So who is next, Satish? Which rubbish? Sorry, yeah, it's again you are respectful. Why you say that is rubbish? Yeah, okay, have you concluded?
I have to leave. If there is any question to me, people can ask when
I'm not understanding.
I have made a presentation and I have to leave the hall now.
Yes.
If there is any question to me from
there is not a space for the whatever working committee to talk.
Very much.
So who is the next? Philip. People, you want to, but you need a mic. Sarah, yes. Sarah, you are making an argument which is. I am trying my best to be respectful. I'm trying to be respectful. Yes. Can we just move on with the next question? Because, okay, can we just follow the process we decided all together at the beginning? We have people coming here to pose questions, and people have the same rights as you, members of the working committee, to have questions. So you say that the residents don't have your same rights to come here. Who is next who is next? Okay.
It's more clarification. I think many people mix up the register of residents and the master list. Yeah? So anyone who wants to join Auroville at any point, even before you're becoming a newcomer, you get a master list number, and the master list is maintained by the resident service. If you're not becoming an Aurovillian, a confirmed Aurovillian, your name will be taken off the master list. This has nothing to do with the registry of residents. Nevertheless, when someone is confirmed as an Aurovillian, then they come to the entry office, they have to sign up a form called the B form, and eventually meet, so this is also optional on our site, that people who are confirmed Aurovillian meet with the Secretary of the Auroville Foundation and get their name added to the registry of residents. They are eligible to get their name added to the registry of residents. It is not mandatory. And there are many people here who have been in Auroville for more than 30 years who are not in a registry of residents by choice. Yeah? So this I want to be clear about. Master list is one thing, registry of residents is a different thing. Registry of residents is only maintained by the foundation. Master list is maintained by the resident service with all information coming from the other group. Ramayan is same subject. Same what? There is no number in the registry of residents. In the registry of residents, they might enter the master list number, but there is no registry of resident number. Okay.
Hello, good afternoon. My name is Susan, and I am a management application developer. In 2006, I developed the resident service application and the database that is the master list of Auroville. And from 2006 to 2014, I was the administrator of this database. So I was very often at the resident service office. Now, I want to say that, first of all, the foundation office, they had full access to resident service master list and the application that I had made. I gave them the credentials, I gave them the user and password. And also, every month, in spite of the fact that this application will give the users a full reporting facility, so you can make reports of the master list of Auroville, of the latest information, the foundation office were sending emails to the resident service and asking them to send them a report of the updated master list. Because using this report, they were updating the register of residents. So the two are related, they are not separate. And so until 2014, I can tell you that the register of residents was fully updated every month. I believe it is an Excel sheet. It was updated every month by the register of residents. And basically until 2014. At 2014, my colleague, Philip, he developed an updated version, upgraded version of this database. And then from then on, he was actually administrating the database. But what is important to know is that the database of the resident service of Auroville always reflects the most updated data about the residents of Auroville at any moment. Otherwise, the resident service cannot function. They cannot function day to day. So basically, we can never say that this data is missing or does not exist. It always exists. Now I ask Philip to tell you, to share with you what he knows during the period that he was administrator.
Nothing much more. It was my first assignment. It was the time when we were talking about something called asympto. So that's where I stepped in. I was working in blue light. I did that for 5 years. And we redeveloped basically reports at the destination of the foundation office, so that I'm pretty confident that the resident service did actually send monthly reports of the updates, like yes, people, deceased people, newcomers, whatever change of status and everything, and it was changed. Like now, I believe it's the responsibility of the resident service to have done this. By the way, in the mandate of the working committee, it's written that the working committee, in collaboration with the resident service, makes sure that the updates are sent to the foundation. I believe it was done. I did that till I think 2018, where for some reason I better not to speak about that now. I was dismissed from this duty. I proposed to continue, but for someone basically decided to throw me out and give this duty to Taram and Shankar Devi. I haven't spoken recently with the resident service, but Suzanne, she told me yesterday that this reporting, monthly reporting, is not in the hands of the resident service anymore. So it was Shankar Devi who actually has the duty to have updated, send the updates, what I understand, to be cross-checked with the resident service. I believe that they are the responsible for that. So send the updates to the foundation office. Was it done or not? I got dismissed from this function. Thank you. By the way.
My name is Ram Narayan, part of entry board. Sophie is also part of entry board. Thanks to her explaining the background. Just a little information I need to add, that when people are out for more than 5 years, they should have been out from the RoR as far as our established policy. But sometimes, and if they want to join, then they have to come through, apply for a returning Aurovillian status that we process. So sometimes we find that they are out for longer, but still their name is in RoR. So even I have to say that yesterday I even received a call from somebody who wants to join. He is out for 6 years, but his name is still in RoR. So you see, to err is human. Sometimes maybe some names are missed, but it is updated means maybe it is not thoroughly updated. That I meant to say.
I think that what we have heard just now shows that this story of the necessity to update the RoR is just a made-up story. And it is part of the campaign of intimidation and trying to get the resident, to force the resident to do things which are unnecessary. I just want to say that I have very much appreciated the work of the ARL, so I'm sorry, I did not want to look as if I'm critical of you. I think you have conducted these RLDs very well, so let's be clear on that. My point is that we know that there is a sustained campaign to try to intimidate us. We know it, we saw it every day. So we have to be together able to see that quietly and say no to it. When I'm told by competent people that this pretends, in fact they say they lie, they say it has not been updated till 2005, which is just a lie. But one of the lies, I mean there are so many lies that you don't know how to start. So I'm simply saying, I'm asking you all Aurovillians to have this basic faith that nothing is going to happen to us because this is Moses' project. And this is the main thing that we have to remember. This is all a bureaucratic plot to try to take over a power which solely belongs to the resident. And they don't like it. I mean, some bureaucrats, I mean. It is a fact, it is the only power, and we have to protect that power absolutely, because it is a power that makes sense. Who really can decide who can be an Aurovilian? I'm not saying that we do it perfectly well. We all feel sometimes the entry process is not always what it should be. But basically, no bureaucrat can decide, oh, yeah, this person can be an Aurovilian. And you have seen recently this thing of creating honorary Aurovilian. What is this? Tomorrow we will have 10,000 honorary Aurovilian, and conveniently, out of these 10,000, 9,500 will vote for the things of the foundation. Please, you have to understand this is pure intimidation. It is based on the lie. Therefore, I, for one, will not fill up this form.
There are two things that bothered me. One was the working committee saying we leave it at the discretion of everybody to choose. Sure, everybody can choose whatever they want to do, but this is a point when we need actual leadership, because what is at stake is Auroville's right to self-governance. And so, these are all tactics to slowly remove our right to self-governance, which is intrinsic to our experiment here in human unity. Therefore, being bullied, coerced, and complying is just not an option. So, I would roundly object when it's already based on a lie. See, we've heard it was updated in 2018, 2019, 2020, and they claim it wasn't done since 2005. So these are just lies. And we can't just keep rollovering and quaking and being fearful. We're Aurovilians. What makes a city? It's not buildings, it's people. And we are those people. We are Aurovilians. Be sovereign. We belong here. We grew up here. We have a shared history here. We have the right to decide how it's going to be. We have the right to decide what kind of city we're going to build and in what manner. And people who are still sitting on the fence, whether it's JCBs, goons, visas, FIRs, whatever is coming down the pipeline, and believe me, more will keep coming, because this is a whole other agenda behind this. And just saying, oh, Mother City and Mother City is being willfully ignorant to fact. Another thing that disturbs me, is when the RAS that has conducted a vote of the residents dares to say that there are two working committees, I'm very disturbed. How dare you? There is one working committee and a false working committee that is hiding behind the sari of Madam or the Foundation Office, grabbing and clinging onto power, and we won't forget, because these are our Aurovilian brothers fighting against us, our own residents, siding with authority. It's just not acceptable. This is not just going to be swept today. It's RNet, tomorrow it's the emails, then it's FMC, then it's entry group, it's land board is prevented from doing our work. We're being cobbled. The first GB minutes tells us how useless we are. You show me one place where 3,000 people have done as much as we have done. So, excuse me, stand up, be brave, look the people in the face and just say no.
Hi again. One thing, like it's my job so to do some IT stuff. Honestly, my personal feeling doesn't matter too much, but like I don't have really strong opposition for just saying that yes, I'm still on the master list and I'm still on the register of resident, and I don't see a core issue, just like people asking yes, do you still want to be Aurovilian? Yes or no? That's a simple question. I say yes, that's it. That's something I'm willing to fill. That's fine. What I'm not comfortable with is with the questions which are marked as compulsory. For example, there is the Aadhaar card. My job is IT, so I'm constantly have this kind of questions about the information we collect, these information systems, those databases they collect about each of us and how they work. And Aadhaar is quite clear. There was a Supreme Court judgment, and it's written clearly the Aadhaar card is not compulsory. It was then discussed in the parliament, and there's something called the Aadhaar Act, which was passed by the parliament soon after, so it's even less than 2 years old. And it's written clearly that any administration, Indian administration, must provide an alternate way of identifying people. That those fingerprints and those whatever, how is it called, like physiological recordings, yeah, they are not compulsory. So I'm sorry, this form is not legal. They cannot force you to ask. I don't have Aadhaar card, and I don't need one. So I would like to fill this form, but as it is, if I have to fill that, I cannot. Yeah, that's what I do. I mean, not applicable, but you know, like the people, they just like throw the form out in the foundation saying that I did, and then they'll strike me out of the register of residence.
My question is for RAS. Thank you. Together we participated in an array revival exercise about the master list. There was a task force about it. At the time, a group, I believe RAS, Working Committee, Resident Assembly, started to meet on that subject. Principally about the master list, to make sure, in part, that the voting was properly done, in particular the quorum calculation. So I would like to hear from the RS what was the outcome of this, and how confident are you that the master list and your numbers are within, everywhere in the world there is a margin, by the way, of quorum calculation. It's universal. There's always a margin of error because it happens and it's considered legal. So that is my question. Because, for example, the working committee, the other one, was emerged as part of a RAD vote to lower the percentage. So, to what extent, and if this one is not valid, was that one valid? I guess it's two questions in one. Yes, you and I, as a sample, I was part of it and Satish was part of it. We did try to look at this situation of the master list and how to make sure. So you did go through.
Yeah, so with the RA revival, what we tried to do was basically, you know, RAS has a mailing system, and sorry, we get all our contacts from the resident service database, and as usual, you know, we have so many residents in this community that do not have an email account or are not part of our emailing system. So that's the exercise we did when we were, you know, doing with the RA Revival Task Force. So what we did was that we had a big meeting over here. I don't remember the year and the date, sorry about that. And we did take that opportunity to collect email contacts of all these residents, hoping that people that are who are not in our mailing system would have come up for this meeting and would have shared their email address. And I guess it has been shared with the resident service and they have updated it. So as far as numbers of people who are not in our mailing list, we have recently also published these numbers. And we have also published these numbers in the past as well when there was an outcry in the community stating that there are X amount of people who are not receiving RAS emails, important emails, and so on. So we have done quite a bit of, looking at the numbers from what we published in the past and recently as well in one of our clarification, there's a significant increase. I couldn't say, exact numbers, but there has been significant increase in the number of people that were added into our mailing list and to the resident service database as well. Would that help with it?
From that point onwards, I know that then you started to meet, maybe our resident service started to meet with the working committee regularly to work with the new Asinto Talan system. So as RS, my guess is that then you check, to get the quorum calculation, you get those numbers. Because my question is that Foundation Office is challenging these numbers, linking this to the RED process, pretty much, as far as I can see. So the only link I could tell is how people should be voting, or should they also for the quorum calculation?
Can I frame a question if I understand the question?
Sure, why not?
Okay. So, yeah. I don't want to go there because I don't like being on YouTube. Okay. So, if I understand your question, you're basically saying out of the 800 or so people who voted, have you verified against the register of residents whether these people who voted are part of the master list? Is that what you're asking? The quorum is the total number of residents and 800 or so voted, so we have passed the quorum, okay? Your question basically is the people who are voted, are they part of the register of residents? Is that it? Is that what you're asking? I think we can move on this question.
Can I maybe also add some details, maybe to clarify the situation? So before October, if I'm not mistaken, last year, we were using the policy, the decision-making policy of 2007, and there it was indicated that we need to rely on data of the register of residents. But after that, when we had the policy, when we got the policy reviewed, and now we are using the provisional version of this policy. In April 2021, the working committee issued a recommendation, let's say, to refer to the master list. And I guess in our questions and answers that we shared recently, we also pointed out to that fact. So since that post from the working committee, this recommendation of the working committee is in place, then we use the master list database, which is provided by the resident service. Well, and we cannot know, to answer your question, we don't really know if it's really accurate and what is that accuracy or inaccuracy of the database of the register of residents and resident service. We just rely on the data that they provide us. So that's, I don't know if it brings some clarity or not, but that's the fact. So before April last year, we were referring to the RoR. After that, we used to require
data, the number of the residents from the resident service. That's it.
And how did you get access to RoR before? Because as I understand, it's at Foundation Office.
Before we would just request the working committee to provide us. Through the working committee, we requested the Auroville Foundation Office to provide this data. So that was like our routine. Sorry, we didn't hear the question.
No, I'm just saying it's not only the foundation that is accessing data. Foundation is.
Is there another
accessing
microphone
data
that we can give her so that we can actually hear what she's saying? Is that possible?
She doesn't want you to hear what she's saying. She just wants to just say it.
Okay. The register of residents is in a database that is maintained by Corleone, which is who is not yet passed over to the other side, and the foundation is accessing it on that database as much as the working committee. So you can always ask him for the database. It's not that you have to go through the foundation to get it.
Well, and just again to bring to your attention that it was in the past.
Yeah.
But since April, yeah,
you
sure.
can get that database.
Since April 2021, we changed that procedure. So we were using the data provided by the resident service. Thank you.
As I said earlier, the resident service database is always up to date, and it reflects the exact status of the residents of Auroville. The RoR or the foundation, they always take the master list and update RoR. So the master list is always up to date.
One more last question. So since 2005, how many times was the RAS informed by Foundation that the registry of residents was not updated and could not be used for voting, for example?
Never.
So what was the answer to that?
Given the fact that the old-timer, or as an old-timer of the team, I joined the team end of 2015. I don't know, I mean, it was not even in our mind to kind of have this doubt, but I believe that it could happen also, and as we can see, there are some other fields, maybe some residents, they would like to share this information about themselves. So.
No, it's important. It's a question and answer. So I would like to know.
Maybe you go back and then you put your name in the list. Sure.
Just my question from the beginning was
No, I'm saying
I like them to go from
Okay, sure. Yeah, I'd like you to go from the place.
Thanks. Would you say it kindly?
Yeah, I'm saying
I
kindly,
think
but
I
you don't move.
also.
Can you just move? Yes.
It's just these questions are very important. I see a lot of people and I also talk for them because I get those questions a lot. Do not understand what is happening. Really not the link between the voting, the RAD. So I think I welcome this meeting very much. So we could exchange in a fraternal way and not this.
Who's next? There is.
You see, I am fully aware, and I'm in the council in the middle of this kind of battle, we could call it, or let's say of really doing our very best all the time to find a way to hold to our self-governance and to really get this, so let's say, be with the community. But I must tell you, with this forum, I felt personally, and I want to share this, that this is a small thing for me. And maybe they're untogether, maybe they're even looking for a way to make us work. But I would just fill this form, at least all the mandatory thing, and get done with it, and concentrate on all the other important battles and questions. And unless there is a lawyer who tells me this section is, that could have this consequence, then I would get attentive. But the rest, I'm here, I've worked, I just say what it is. It's just my personal data. It's what I stand for, all whatever I've extra additionally filled out. There's nothing to hide. I don't know the point or not the point. I would like
In the mic, please.
I feel we need to build bridges or show goodwill where it's not necessary, and we definitely need to stay very strong with the other questions where our self-governance is at question. That's my feeling. Look, that's just personal, but also sitting with Srinivasamurthy in that meeting, I thought, let's concentrate. And yeah, let's also see where they try to weave us into something. Let's be very, how can I say, together and also attentive, and then fight the important battles.
I think we are talking too much about technicalities and details, and I think we should come back to the essential. First of all, why did this request sprung on us absolutely suddenly? It's obvious because the results of the RED did not please the powers that be, and they had to find a way to say these REDs are not valid. Okay, so they pulled out a rabbit from the hat, and that was the register of resident. Okay, so what I feel also, this meeting, instead of concentrating too much on details, should concentrate on the only thing which should have been the aim of this meeting, is to arrive at a common strategy and a common decision. This is what I feel.
Hello everybody, I'm Robert. You know, I look at all that, I want to thank the RAS for all the job you do, but in this time I find that quite inappropriate to spend 2 hours in one meeting a week. Since 2 weeks, so many things have happened in Auroville, and we don't address it. I mean, we have a working committee of the Resident Assembly. We need leadership. We need them to come up in front and tell them what they think. I agree with Renou saying that, I don't agree with the position of working committee saying you do what you want. Tell us what to do. Tell us what to do. You fill up the damn sheet or you don't fill it up. And after that, we have things to work. Every day I'm on the WhatsApp site. We hear rumors of ugly things. We see all the powers that we have going out, you know, taken by the office of the secretary. So what do we do now? Is there any legal things that have been started with the working committee? Me, I would like Soro, Jürgen, or anybody from the working committee to tell us where are we now? Not spending 2 hours on a little piece of paper.
No, so if you allow me, I would like just to stress a little bit that we have been requested not to host this meeting by the Undersecretary, Mr. Srinivasamurthy, and still we have been said not to host any general meeting until this hour would be updated. And still, we have tried to reformulate a little bit this meeting in question and answers, just to host a space for all together to discuss. But I'm a little bit also disappointed by Renu. I just wanted to express to her, because RS is trying to find a way to move a little bit in this whole mess, and it's sometimes I just want to share with you, but sometimes it's just we are in some kind of blank. We don't know. It's confusing. We are in total confusion because we are pulled from everywhere, and sometimes we need also. I would like to defend a little bit Giovanni, because we are part of a team, because he is straight, and we need also this kind of skill, because we are only 4 people trying to address everything, so please let's be a little bit on our side also. Thank you.
I'd like to say thank you to everybody here who is trying to navigate a journey, a path of truth in what can be confusing for many people. Especially I thank our working groups and the services like RAS and our working committee of the Residents Assembly. Even if things are not perfect, I don't have every element at my fingertips to judge exactly. I think the situations can be more complex than most of us know. Certainly confusion is there, but for me, I do believe that we have some safe ground, and that is the Auroville Act, Foundation Act, that is non-negotiable and should not be contravened and should not be contradicted. That is something that where if the Foundation Act is clearly expressing that the decision of who is part of the Auroville community rests with the Residents Assembly, I don't think that should be altered. That is a problem. Personally, if there is a need for having additional information, additional data, personally I feel open to that. It can be discussed, maybe times change. As Shivaya said, it may be that this form is rather innocuous, that the information is there anyway. I am prepared to fill it in, but I would be prepared to hand over my form to the residents' service and not to anybody else. Thank you.
So it seems like the questions are over. So then we can invite you to share your concerns, maybe questions. Sorry, you would like to? Please.
It's not a question, just a small short statement. First of all, I reacted to Giovanni at the beginning. I understand and I agree and appreciate that he wanted to inform the public that they've invited both groups. I mean, that is normal and that is a big part. But I objected to the language. It's not that there are 2 groups which are coming by chance and suddenly they're fighting. So when I heard the word whatever, it was not the appropriate word. I mean, there is one group which is a working committee that is come through a process of the resident assembly which have been old. And then there is a group which is a different claim, but you cannot put in the language just as if they are the same. I mean, we have to acknowledge the reality, they are there, and that is a problem, but we have to be clear in our language what we stand for. That's why I have reacted. The other point, the question whether the working committee should say what to do. We think, and I strongly believe, that sharing data involves different sensitivity. And different sensitivity, each one has different reaction. Personally speaking, I'm a person which I don't mind sharing data. There are persons which are strongly defensive. It's not up to us what to do, to tell people what to do. We are not making diktat, you do this or do that. What we are very clear, and we wanted to be very clear in our statement, and we are clear even today after the so frequently asked question has come up, that there is absolutely, in our view, no legal ground to remove people from the register of a resident if they don't fill the form. It's a free choice, the kind of information that people has to share, and then, but that there is no legal ground for this. And if anyone goes into trouble or there is some misuse of this system, we are ready to give all full support that is necessary in all possible way, that nobody is removed from the resident or register of resident for the wrong reason. So I want very clear that this is our stand. I mean, that is in particular way. No, I mean, there might be option to do fast, I mean, but less when the time comes. I mean, but anyway, our focus is to prevent that anyone is not included in, removed from the register of resident because he does not fill the form or he doesn't like the form. That is our scope. Then whether the individual choice is a particular matter, but we are very clear and very firm on this, and we support everyone who will have problem.
Two more questions were asked to me in another language, so I'm happy to bring them to you in English. One was exactly from this working committee. When is the last time you gave an update to foundation of the resident, the registry, I mean master list that would be needed to update the RoR? And then again to RAF, my question from before, Tatiana, I'm happy if you reply later, but my question was how many RADs happened or other committee decisions since 2005? And there was never any word from foundation challenging the numbers, right? As far as I remember. Thank you. Can I get the question from the working committee? When is the last time you participated in an update? Like someone said monthly before, or?
There was a general update done in 2019, and normally the regular update is not a list that basically is to inform what the new member of the Auroville, that's normally used to be the working committee, and then now is the entry board. And then regularly, when someone passes away or leave Auroville, regularly the working committee has informed the foundation office for this. So that is up to them to do a simple operation that says this person is not anymore in Auroville, we can just remove. It's something that takes 5 minutes. You don't need to do a kind of census exercise every year. And those who are in Auroville are well known, and when someone is leaving for whatever reason, this foundation is gone immediately to the foundation.
So my question is for what, sorry, thank you. So, was saying before, my visa just expired. I had to get the letter of recommendation for the foundation, from the foundation, signed by the secretary. And in order to get this letter signed, I had to fill out the questionnaire for the RoR. So I didn't even notice, actually, when they put me this questionnaire with the self-declaration, I didn't even recognize it at that moment. So what do we do in that case? We say, no, we don't want to fill it up, and it doesn't matter, we don't get the letter of recommendation? Especially when your visa is expiring 2 days later. Because you say you would, if a name is removed from the registry of residents, you would step in. But what about visa extension? Okay, it's just because you mentioned, okay, sorry.
We are taking care of visa, we have been taking care of this issue as a priority for the last two months, and we are doing all the support. I mean, and I would say we have good support from the FRO and the external authority. We have more difficulties internally. There are, in the last, since December, when the problem started with there have been 281 visa recommendations that has been sent to the Auroville Foundation. Although there are totally different numbers, much higher, which are circulating, but they don't refer to a period. And out of these 281 people, we got recommendation from the working committee to get a letter from the secretary. About 40 got much less than what it was recommended. Either 1 year or 3 years or 6 months. Yeah, that is, I mean, there are some people who say, I'm proud, I go home and I don't sign. Or I stay in India, overstay. Some people say, I sign. I mean, that we have seen many cases and people react in a different manner. I mean, that is nothing to say. But I mean, that is, the point is that it is an issue because 1 out of 7 of the people who have applied for a visa in the last 6 months has got less than what recommended. And that is one problem which has to be dealt, that this situation should not arise in future, should not continue.
Yes, I have seen that there was an alternative with a form that was gazetted. So I would like to know if we sign the form that has been gazetted, are we illegal or are we staying within the legal frame? Would the working committee stand by us if we sign that form and not the other one? Also, are we going to be labeled as dissident if we fill up the form, but not the optional part? I assume that it will not be taken against us. All right.
I thought it's a little bit of pity that so many people go now, because maybe it's a good idea to vote here with hand sign if we should fill in this form or not, and then we follow the majority. What do you think about that? Okay. Why not?
Well, yeah, so see, we are here for the questions and answers that was clearly stated. No decision making can be done here, and especially without a frame of the decision making process that we applied for the past years. So I would not go for it. So if any other questions are not addressed, I would invite you just to fill in the slips of papers, so you can find them there, and share your questions, concerns that we can hand over to the Auroville Foundation Office. If they can address them, if they can answer, the update will come soon. Thank you.